My name is Danny Parker, at least in some countries, and I am here today to fulfill my destiny. And I have to thank all of you for being here and helping me do that. So we're here today to talk about how raising our spirit can actually help us lead a more fulfilling life, a fulfilling life that we deserve. One of the things that we have to do to get started in lifting our spirit is we have to overcome our limitations that we put on ourselves. You know the expression, we are our own worst enemy? The reason that expression is still around is because it's true. It's very, very true. We just have to stop limiting ourselves and stop fighting for our limitations is one of the things that I like to say. And you know what I mean, fighting for our limitations. So it's like if someone says, you know, oh, I could do this if it wasn't for this. Or I could say to you, you really, really can lead a happier life. But then a person might say, well, I can't because, and a lot of times people will fight for their limitations because I have an excuse for why I can't have a happy life. And people really hunker down sometimes on those excuses and just really hang on to them. So that's why that expression, don't fight for your limitations, is one that I throw out. And we can't let fear and doubt and self-sabotage and those sorts of things keep us from enjoying our lives. And a lot of us do that. I know that I do those things. On your pad, I want you all to write down, I am awesome. Because it's true. And I want you all to think about that. And I hope that makes you feel good when you write that, because it is true. And if you don't feel good when you're writing it, write it again. Keep writing that. Because you really are awesome. Think of it this way. If we aren't on our side, who else is going to be on our side? How can we expect someone else to be rooting for us if we're not rooting for ourselves? So we need to be our own biggest fan. I mean, that's the really important thing here is we have to stop thinking ourselves as this limited, less than person and start thinking ourselves as somebody who's really, really awesome. Because we are. I'm probably not as smart or funny or good looking as I think that I am. But I don't care. I mean, I would rather be blissfully going through life, living my dream, than be going through life proud because I knew it wouldn't happen. You know what I mean? I mean, it's like all we have to do is just change our mindset about ourselves and we feel better about ourselves and we will enjoy our lives more rather than beating ourselves up every day and just thinking, oh, I should be doing this, or I'm not good enough for that, or the various things that we say to ourselves to limit ourselves and to hold ourselves back. And we're capable. We really, really are capable of achieving our dreams. And I use this example with people because I think it's something that most people can relate to. So let me ask you this. I mean, this is a thought exercise. Is if I gave you a car that was full of gas, and it was nighttime, and I put you in that car with no other technology except you and that car, and I said, you need to get to a little town in Ohio that's called Oakwood. Could you get there with just a car full of gas at night? The point is a little town somewhere that you've never been before, somewhere that you've never heard of. Could you get there? The question isn't how would you get there. The question isn't how fast, what's the fastest you could get there. So this exercise is to make you think, well, now wait a minute. Yeah, if I had a car, I turn on the lights, I set off, I could find anywhere. It doesn't matter how you get there. The confidence, it's just the confidence in knowing that you can. That you'll figure it out, that it will sort itself out as you go along. You don't have a map. All you know is that I'm going to this place. Well, our lives are the same way. But what happens is we get hung up on hung up on the how, when all we need to do is be focusing on the where. But the hard part is figuring out the where. We don't have to worry about how we get there. Just what's my true destination? What's my real destination in life? And so that's the real tough question there. What I'm heading to on this is how do we figure out where we truly want to be? And that happens as we start defining ourselves. So we have to be clear about who we want to be and where we want to be. And so I'm gonna sort of like give you some questions and help you out to kind of figure out some ways of sort of sorting that out. And I'm not trying to get you to a place where I want to go or take a path that I have taken. It's to each of us to sort out for ourselves what is right for us and how to figure out what's right for us. And the question that I like to ask people is, or to help them ask themselves, is what is my passion? What is my true passion? So there's a difference between something being my passion and something that I'm passionate about. Okay, so my true passion is something that it comes from within. It's a core piece of who I am. It's not what I enjoy doing, but it is what is my true passion. And so I ask these three questions, or I have people ask these three questions of themselves. And write these questions down, write down your answers to these. These are things that you can sort out in the future. The questions are, what do I do best? What do I love? And what do I feel the world needs? So the question of what do I do best is a question that we all have to ask ourselves. And it's not necessarily something that I can use to my advantage or that I could share to people and say, I do this best. Isn't this great? Or something that you do in order to make money or anything. And so what I recommend and what I did is I just made a list of things that I thought that I do best. Because until I make the list, what I could do is I said, well, what I do best is, washing the dishes. And it could be something like that. It could be something that just, would have no value to anyone else, but it's the things that I believe that I do best. And it's not things that I do better than everyone else, just the things that I do best. And again, like our other lists, this isn't something that you would share with people. This is just for yourself. And then also, what do I love? What do I love doing? And so what I like to say with this question is, what do I love so much that I would pay people so that I could do that? So it doesn't have to be something, and it's not something necessarily like playing golf or shooting baskets or painting a picture or something like that where you would pay somebody to do something. I'm just saying that if you had to pay someone to do that you enjoyed that, you loved that so much, that would be on your list of what do I love. And then the third one there is what do I feel the world needs? So if I have this burning question or this burning desire inside of me because I feel that the world needs very, very badly needs something, what are those things? And what are those most important things? And maybe what is the one thing that is so important to me that I think that the world needs? And so what happens is we use these questions, we use the answers to these questions to help us sort of dial in these things about ourselves that we don't normally ask ourselves, because we just kind of go through life and we, I enjoy this and I, do that and all that sort of stuff and I don't like. But these are the kind of questions that help us really, really dial in who we are. And don't be afraid that your list will have you thinking and doing things that are different from everybody else. That's to me, that makes it even better, that it isn't ordinary or isn't normal. And then for me, the big question is that we all need to ask ourselves is, what story does my heart want to tell? The reason that we ask ourselves this question is because it sort of makes us think in a very big, but also in a very selfish way, because it's really, really about, it's about us and what is most important in our hearts and deep down inside of us? And I think it's a really, really good question. And I think mostly that or one of the reasons that makes it a really good question is because it's so difficult to answer. I think if you have an answer right away, well, either you've been thinking about it already, you've thought this out, or the easy answer isn't really what the story that your heart wants to tell, because I think it really requires some soul searching and looking inward. And during this process, we have to be careful because we can't compare ourselves to others. We can't start saying, well, so and so, they do this, and well, that's really awesome, but I could never do that. Or, this person would be impressed if I said that my story was, we can't start comparing ourselves or using other people and all that sort of stuff, because if my initial reaction is that I want to help, bring art and creativity to the community, I would think, oh, well, there are people who are already doing that. And so we can't start comparing ourselves to others, because then what happens is then we start limiting ourselves again. And all of this is about removing those limitations on the ways that we think and how we feel about ourselves. So don't go down that comparison road. And then the other thing is we're all absolutely unique. I want you to write this down too. I am unique. It's so true. I think most people sort of, they revel in the fact that they like that they're different, and they like being different. But I think if we go deeper into that, I really, really think that a lot of people just would rather not stand out, would rather not be too different from everyone else. And if it was me, I would make a list of things that I think make me really unique. And again, this isn't a list to show people. These are like, okay, because I met this woman once who could write upside down and backwards. And it was just one of those things where I'm just like, oh my gosh, as soon as she did it, I was just like, that is amazing. Hold up a piece of paper and backwards to a mirror, and I was just like, that is just amazing. Well, that is something that makes her truly unique. That isn't something that she could go out and sell to people. It isn't something that's necessarily bringing value to the world, but that is something that was truly unique to her. And so that should just make her feel just fantastic, because that was something that she could do. So these things can be completely frivolous. It doesn't matter. But when we start making a list about things that make us unique, we start looking at ourselves and we start feeling better about ourselves. And I think that's the most important part. And for some reason in the world, and I'm totally guilty of this, or I have been in the past, is that we don't have to feel bad about ourselves to be a good person. Because there's sort of this idea that, you should, be humble, and you should, not be proud, and, those sorts of things. Well, there are, times for being proud, and there are times for not being proud. But I need to feel good about myself and feel proud of who I am. I need to feel good about who I am. I don't need to feel bad in order to be a good person. This is one of my biggest points that I like to make, and I'm gonna drive this into you pretty hard, but it's just this idea of what we give is what we get. And this is a really, really old idea. This idea has been around forever, and the reason, again, that it keeps coming back is because it's true. It's very, very true. What we give out to the universe is what we get back. I can't tell you how, in the last few years, how I've come to realize how true this is. It was something that I always just kind of knew and I would hear, but just the power of this idea of what we give to the universe is what we get back from the universe. And we need to be, and again, this is one of those catchphrases. I really don't like catchphrases, but it's one of those things that it's just true, that we need to be proactive and not reactive. So in our lives, we need to be proactive and not just react to what comes along to us. We need to be consciously thinking in terms of how do I be proactive on a daily basis, and not just in a practical term of the things that we do, but in terms of what our energy is and what we put out and what we give out to the world and to the universe. We need to be proactive about putting out the right signals to the universe. You know, I just think that there are a lot of unhappy people out there who don't realize that they're unhappy or how unhappy they are. They're putting that unhappiness just sort of out into the universe all the time without realizing it. One of the best examples, and this was something that I realized a couple of years ago during Halloween. And I'm going to tell you the story, and I'm not judging people. I'm using this story as an illustration of what I'm trying to say here to help make a point. So a couple of years ago during Halloween, I was noticing on social media, because that was when those doorbell cameras became popular. It was a few years ago. And so you were seeing, videos from these doorbell cameras. And there was this one video that I kept seeing, and it was showing an unattended bowl of Halloween candy, and a mom and her kids came up, and the bowl was unattended, and so they just took that bowl and they just poured the whole thing into their bags. And there were people that were putting this out on social media saying, "This is what's wrong with the world. People are so terrible. Look at how awful this mother is teaching," all that stuff. I mean, it was just one of those things that it just made you feel bad for them. It made me feel bad. I mean, it was just one of those things where it's just like, it's just this bad energy. But at the same time, there was also another one that was being circulated around that showed this similar situation where the treats were unattended, doorbell cam, this family came up. They took stuff out of their bags and they left it for the next people. And I'm just like, I'm watching this and I'm just going, which person am I? Which person would I rather be? The person that's giving back or the person that's taken? And it's not just about the Halloween candy. It's the same for the people that are sharing those videos. What do I want to put out to the world? I want to put out the people that share. I want to put out the people that are good and that are happy, that are putting this good vibration out into the world. Don't get me wrong. I'm not oblivious to the fact that there are bad people and there are bad things going on all the time. I'm completely aware of that. That is why we need to be putting out the good stuff. We need to kind of do our best to radiate that goodness that is out from us. And it's in lots and lots of small things that we do. And I think that's, is what I'm trying to say, is that there are a lot of unhappy people out there who don't realize that they're actually unhappy. They're just keep putting this stuff out, and they aren't thinking, I'm an unhappy person, so I'm going to share unhappiness. That's just what they do without realizing it. We need to feel good about ourselves and how we feel and what we put out. I mean, it's all the same energy. And what we put out to the universe, we get that back. And life is supposed to be fun. I mean, fun is an indicator that we're doing it correctly. The more fun we're having, the more we can realize that this is the life that we're supposed to have. I used to, oh my gosh, this has happened to all of us. You go to a party, sometimes at parties they might be playing euchre or Texas Hold'em or some game or something like that, And I always resist joining in those games. But people will say, "Come on, Dana, this you're fun. Join in." But what sort of makes me sketchy sometimes about this is that a lot of times there's a person, or the mood of the game is they want to win. Somebody really wants to win. When I was a kid, we would go to these family gatherings, and it was just wonderful out in the country. And this family loved playing volleyball. So this beautiful volleyball set up in the barnyard in the summer days. It was awesome. But they wanted to win. They were serious about playing volleyball. Well, they wanted me to join in, and I'm just here to have fun. And so, I would hit the ball back with my head or whatever, I'm not trying to lose the game, but I'm trying to have fun. And they didn't like it. And I'm just thinking, okay, that's why I don't want to play with these people. I don't want to ruin it for them. And I don't want to not enjoy myself. But if we're in the game to win and we don't win, then we haven't had any fun. Now, a lot of people would say, well, that's a metaphor for being a loser. You need to win and you have to have this winning spirit and all that sort of stuff. I'm like, it's just a volleyball game beside the barn, I mean, come on. Most people can figure out, when they need to be serious but I don't know, maybe not. I think a lot of people are just unhappy and think that they have to win. And it's just like, it's just fun. You'll enjoy life more. But the universe wants us to be happy. So think of it this way. I mean, this is a really great way of looking at it. At least it really resonates for me. Is think of the universe as being like a really wealthy, really generous friend. Okay? And this friend is giving you stuff all the time. They have unlimited amounts that they want to give to you. Okay? Now, what is going to happen with my friend if when they give me something, I say to them, oh, well, why didn't you give me that yesterday? Or I say, oh, well, that's nice, but it would have been better if it was blue. Or I say to this person, well, that's, but why didn't you give me anything yesterday? See what I'm saying? Pretty soon that wealthy, generous friend isn't going to want to give you stuff anymore. It's not going to want to share with me anymore because I'm being critical of the gifts that it's giving me. The universe is the same way. It's giving us stuff all the time. And all we have to do is give our gratitude back to the universe, appreciate what the universe is giving to us, and realize that it's not always happening at the time that we wish that it would be happening or the way that it would be happening. But as soon as we realize that they're gifts that we're being given, it sort of changes our outlook of what the universe is giving to us. And so, again, if I'm giving out my good energy to the universe, it is really going to be giving it back to me. So just think of the universe as this really wealthy, really generous friend. Write this one down too. I believe the best part of my life is yet to come. There's a really famous quote. The best way to predict your future is to create it. See what that means? So rather than me just sort of like taking what comes along, I'm going to make my own future. I'm going to be proactive about what my future is. A question that would be then easy to ask me then is like, well, how do I create my future? Because that's how all of you sound when you talk to yourself. That's how you sound. Nanosteps. I'm always talking about nanosteps. Nanosteps to fulfillment in this case. We already possess everything we need to have a happy life. It's already inside of us. All we need to do is nurture that spirit in order to allow that spirit to grow. And we have to make sure that our spirit matches the kind of life that we want. Okay? So let that sink in a bit. Our spirit has to match the kind of life that we want. No one can life sucks their way to a happier life. But yeah, Nanosteps will help us get there. And we have to raise our spirit so that our spirit matches the life that we want to have. And that a raised spirit is a magnet for happiness. So when we focus on the good, more good comes to us. So part of the nanosteps, or the nanosteps that I'm going to go over here, are prepare the soil, let go, visualize, acknowledge, be selfish, and dream board. So there they are. Work those out. Thank you. Bye. So when we're practicing a self-supportive mindset and we're eating foods that are improving our health and we're getting deep, refreshing sleep, our spirit will have everything that it needs to grow. That's preparing the soil for planting these seeds of raising our spirit. We need to let go. So we need to let go of the past. We need to recognize people and things that are in our lives that aren't helping us, that aren't improving our lives. This is kind of a tough one because if we have people in our lives that aren't on board with us making our lives better, there's something wrong with that dynamic there. I mean, if there's someone who isn't on board, whether it's because it's not about them or because they're insecure or for whatever reason, you have to really, really just stop and think, do I need this person in my life? Because we can't let things and people who aren't with us stay with us, hold us back. It's tough. It's really, really tough. And I personally just went through, a terrible period in my life where this was just so true. Visualize. I'm all about visualization, and I think I put this on here just because I like saying visualization with my lips. We have to visualize ourselves as this amazing person. How can we become somebody if we can't even picture them in our minds? And so the idea for me was when I first started going down this road, I was just sort of like, wait a minute, this is like what it's like when you're a kid. You remember when you were in kindergarten and the teacher came around and asked everyone, what do you want to be when you grow up? Think that way. When you were in kindergarten, you were just like, I could be anything. And then as our lives go along, we decide, well, I can't do that, or I don't like that, or and what those things are, that list of what would you like to be, how would you visualize yourself, just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, until we've limited ourselves to the point of where it's just sort of like where a lot of us have gotten at one point in our life to where we just go, well, there's just one thing. We have to go beyond that and get back to that childlike sort of imagination so that we can visualize. And even if it doesn't necessarily change our lives, just being able to imagine like a kid will just make our lives just better because we have our imagination back. We're lifting our spirit with this goodness and happiness. I mean, it's just a simple exercise. Just imagine like we were kids. We need to practice pointing out things that happen to us on a regular basis all day long that bring us joy. Because as soon as we start acknowledging those things, taking the split second to say, oh man, I just love the way that cloud looks with the sun hitting it that way. Or isn't that cool the way that there are flowers growing there that I didn't realize that there were flowers there before? Or isn't it neat the way the pattern on the sidewalk does that thing when it goes around? Or it can be anything. I just think the little squares on the floor in here are cool. Somebody did that. That shows creativity and imagination on levels that I don't understand. But it's the same thing, though, is that when our mind starts thinking negative thoughts, we have to be aware that we're thinking a negative thought, even though a lot of times those are the easiest things and the ones that happen the fastest, we have these negative thoughts. But we have to be aware and acknowledge that we're having that thought at the moment that it's happening so that we can immediately just cut it off, just stop it, and that takes practice. I practice this, it's something that I'm sure I will be doing my whole life. So it's not like we get to a point to where we don't have negative thoughts anymore. It's just the ability to not let those take minutes or hours or days of our lives away from us because we're having these negative thoughts. And so I have this trick. Maybe this trick will work for you. I sort of have these thoughts sort of like a little bank of happy thoughts, so that as soon as I start thinking something negative, I will go to one of those. And you all have to, everyone has to figure out what their own happy thoughts are. But to me, it's like when I start having a negative thought, I'll just go, oh, stop, 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 stop. And you think about maybe you think about your sister's baby, smelling your sister's baby's head, and it smells like a blanket that just came out of the dryer. And then immediately you're thinking this fuzzy, soft little baby head, and you're not thinking about whatever the ugly negative thought that you were having before. You have to, everyone has to make their own, happy thoughts like that. But just imagine how much better your day would feel as you go along if you thought about that 5 or 6 times, rather than the person who was unkind to you in traffic that morning. You know what I mean? And that's something that we can control. That's our thoughts. It's our feelings. That is something that we can control. So we need to acknowledge the good things, and as quickly as possible, acknowledge the bad things and replace them or get rid of them. Whatever trick works. The next one is be selfish, and I mean that. Be selfish. Well, I don't mean be selfish. I mean be selfish. Be selfish with your time. Our time is really limited, and the more time passes, that seems the less control that we have over our time, the less time that there is. We need to be really, really selfish with our time. We have to be aware of those times when we are wasting our time rather than being selfish about it. And I know this is one of those things that people say, and I've heard people say this, and I'm just like, whatever. But just imagine if instead of watching, the time that you take watching the news, or that you waste on social media with these things that aren't necessarily even making you feel good and not really educating us very much, if you took that same time every day or every other day, take that same time to learn an instrument. If there's an instrument that you always have been fascinated or wanted to play, wouldn't you love to be that cool person at a party who could play a guitar that people could sing to, or could play the piano, or whatever that is? I think most people have things that they've always wanted to do, but it doesn't even have to be anything like that you can share with people. It could just be a hobby. Most of us have 1 or 2 hobbies that we always wanted to do, but just we're like, oh, it's that paint box and the canvas that's in the closet that I just never get out because I have to get all this stuff out. For me, one of my things with one of the hobbies that I have, this is going to sound crazy, but as soon as I figured out for myself a system by which I could pull out all of the stuff and had a place to do it, and then I could enjoy that, but then had a system to where everything would go back and I could put it away. As soon as I had that nice, clean, precise way of doing this hobby that had nothing to do with clean, precise way of thinking, all of a sudden I was just kind of like, I can do this anytime. I am brilliant because I figured out this clever way of getting past that thing that was keeping me from enjoying my hobby. It was just, and it's stupid that we have these really lame excuses to keep us from doing what we enjoy. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous how we are. So that's why I'm saying be selfish about your time. Selfish, that time is yours. You use that for yourself to make you happy, doing things that make you happy. I used to have, oh my gosh, this is going to sound crazy, but over 20 years ago, I gave up television completely. I used to have 2 cable boxes in the house that had the full load. Just everything. And one day I was going through all the channels and realized that there was really nothing any good to watch that was making me happy at all. And so it was a continuous source of frustration. I was being frustrated all the time by this thing that I was spending hundreds of dollars on every single month just so that it would frustrate me. So I cut the cable. I took the boxes and I gave them back to the cable company, and they tried to convince me that it was the best thing to keep those, and I just said no, and I never went back. So again, it's like we do these things automatically that are carving out our precious time. That's my time. I'm going to be selfish with that. Oh, and a cool thing too, talking about, visualization. There, I said it again, visualization. You've probably heard of dream boards or making dream boards. This is really, really fun. And like I was saying earlier, unless we have a clear picture of who we want to be and where we want to be and who that person is inside of us, it makes it difficult to visualize that. And so it's just really, really cool. I mean, if it was 15 years ago, I would say just buy your favorite magazines and cut pictures out of the magazines and stick them on a board, as big as you want or as small as you want. And it doesn't have to be, this is my final dream board. You can have many dream boards. You can have a dream board at work, and you can have a dream board, at home, one in the garage, But the idea, though, I mean, you know what the idea is. Pictures that can be as general or as specific as you want. Make a general dream board that just shows what your dream house would look like. How would my dream house feel on the inside? And just look on the interwebs and find images that sort of give you that feel when you look at them. And if it's you want to feel a certain way, then it's images of people that are outside enjoying their day. Or if you want to live in the mountains, pictures of mountains. If it's not necessarily that you want to live in the mountains, but that the pictures of mountains are the kind of feel that your spirit wants to have. So these are completely up to us to decide whether or not we want them to be something that's practical or whether it's something that's spiritual. It's completely up to us. And that's just part of the fun of doing them, is the actual act of doing them. It's not, okay, I need to make this board, fill it up so that I'm done and I can say, here's my dream board. It's, I am making my life and I am making this dream board. And as I go along, I think, ooh, I really like this particular house. I wonder what that house would look like on the outside. Should you make another dream board? Or add pictures on top of that. You take some off, you add some on. I mean, I make virtual dream boards. So they just sit on my computer, on my desktop. And so if I'm having a day where I'm getting a little frustrated or whatever, I'll just click on that little icon and boom, it will just pop up on my screen and I can just see it right there. That's just my way of making that easy for me to see. Because I don't really have a printer that will print something out as big as, like my computer screen is to see. But you know what I mean? I mean, we all just need to find those ways in order to make that work for us so that it's not a chore, it's something that is raising our spirit, something that we feel good about. Or don't do any of those things. Because like I always say, if you want to be what everyone else is, just do what everyone else does. And that's nothing. Ever since I was in junior high school, I mean, I had that moment where I was walking through the halls of my junior high school. I was just sort of like, wait a minute, we're all doing the same thing. Everybody's doing the same thing, and it's so boring. And so at that time, I mean, I was just a kid. I didn't know what I was about or what I wanted or anything. But I knew that even if it wasn't for a specific purpose, that I would do things just to be different, just for the sole purpose of being different. And then as I went along through life, I would use that to my advantage because it just became a normal part of my thinking. So don't do what everyone else does. Write these down. I am unique. I am powerful. I am in control. We are all absolutely unique. Completely and utterly unique. And I don't mean just a little bit. I mean, we need to revel in our uniqueness. We need to radiate our uniqueness. I honestly think that this is a moral issue. I mean, the universe has given us our own individuality, and I think that it's up to all of us to share that individuality in somehow, some way. whether it's a little bit or a lot, however we can share our individuality with the world. I think we owe it to the universe to say, thank you. Yes, I am really weird. I'm going to tell people this, and they're probably going to think that I'm weird. Okay, maybe I don't want to tell them that, but this thing that makes me, unique, I can share that. We have to just really, really revel in our uniqueness and let everyone else around us, let the world know that we're unique. And if people are scared or put off by that or whatever, yeah, you can dial it in, you can dial it back, that sort of thing. But at the same time, yeah, just be fantastically unique. We are powerful. We are wicked, wicked powerful. Happiness doesn't come from our job or our car or the things around us or things that we surround ourselves with. Those things can enhance our happiness and our enjoyment of life, but those things are a limited resource. Happiness and our spirit comes from inside of us, and we make it ourselves. The way that I look at it is that we are happiness generators. I mean, we have the power to just become these happiness generators that people want to be around. And that energy is magnetic. It draws more happiness to it. And we control how much output of that energy that we are going to give. The happier we are and the more of that energy that we give out to the universe, the more we get back. You know that's true. And I know that that's not an easy thing to be thinking all the time, especially when there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of fear and a lot going on in our lives, a lot of stress, that it's hard to think in those terms. But it is really, really true. And you know it, that we are just these happiness generators. So be powerful. We are powerful. We are in control, and it's critical for us to be putting our attention in the right places, because it's very easy for us to get distracted and be wasting our energy on things that aren't raising our spirit, that aren't improving us, that isn't improving our lives or the lives of the people around us in any way. We need to focus on giving that power back to the world. And that kind of goes back with this idea of what story does your heart want to tell? I'm in control of my life, and I decide what story my heart wants to tell. And so I have the ability to put that out in everything that I do. So as soon as I know what my story is, what I'm about, what story my heart wants to tell, then everything that I do needs to pass through that. That is how I decide. That's what I put out to people. I would say write this down too. I will get there. So going back to the point that I made at the very beginning is in our lives, we don't have to know how to find our destination. So even if all we have is a car and headlights, full tank of gas at night, we know that we can get there. We will get there. And we can use our happiness as an indicator in life. So our happiness genuinely is an indicator so that we know that we're doing the right thing. When my happiness is high, when my spirit is high, when I'm going along and I'm feeling great, I have to stop and just go, all right, don't linger too long on this thought, but I am happy, so I know I'm doing the right thing. I don't need to overanalyze it. I don't have to adjust. I don't have to do anything. I just need to say, I am happy, and I know I'm doing the right thing. And I need to keep doing more of this. This is how we find our destination in the dark. And if we're following our heart, we can't go wrong.